We're going to stick with international news now to check in on a story we are following today. To Syria now, where we're seeing reports alleging chemical weapons have been deployed in the country. On Monday, Syria's state-run Sana news agency reported that U.S. coalition warplanes, quote, carried out another aggression on Syrian territory under the pretext of combating ISIS terrorists, bombing with internationally banned weapons Hajin town in the southeastern countryside of Deir ez-Zor. Local sources told Sana that white phosphorus was dropped in the attack. The allegations would not mark the first time the U.S. has been accused of deploying the banned chemical weapon in recent weeks. Earlier this month, locals told Sana the U.S. struck that same town with white phosphorus bombs. Spokesperson for the U.S.-led coalition in Syria, Sean Ryan, denied the reports, telling Sputnik News, quote, the charges are totally false. Meanwhile, in New York, diplomats at the United Nations discussed the situation in Syria this week. Russia's deputy permanent representative warned the international community not to issue ultimatums to Damascus as the government liberates territory from extremists and attempts to rebuild.
Against the backdrop of the successful liberation of terrorists from vast areas of Syria, there are ongoing efforts to restore normal life in the country and for the return of refugees and internally displaced persons. Together, collectively, and energetically, we must assist these processes and not obstruct them under political pretexts or set dozens of incomprehensible conditions. The UN, the international community, and the Friends of Syria can help, but imposing ultimatums, off-the-shelf decisions, and extreme deadlines upon Syrians is incorrect and will not work. Work on all regional situations demonstrates that imposing anything is a mistaken methodology.
On Monday, a UN Syrian Arab Red Crescent aid convoy was forced to postpone its trip to the town of Rukban, citing security concerns. Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Bashar Jafari, said the U.S. was responsible for impeding the delivery, which would have provided assistance to an estimated 50,000 people.
I can confirm that the Syrian government has given its agreement to United Nations institutions to deliver assistance to the camp in cooperation with the Syrian Red Crescent and the ICRC directly, because it's on the territory of the Syrian Arab Republic, but the United Nations group, after approaching the 55th kilometer on the 25th of this month, returned to Damascus quickly because of the deterioration of the humanitarian situation, and because, according to reports, an imminent Daesh attack was going to be perpetrated against the convoy from the zone controlled by the Americans, and this is even though the United States gave the United Nations assurances as to the security of the convoy for the delivery of this camp, which isn't Somalia. This is proof that the United States is impeding the delivery of assistance to Rukban, and that is the source of the suffering.
With Syria in question, we're joined now by international relations and security analyst Mark Sleboda. Mark, the U.S. says it is not dropping white phosphorus in Syria. Is that denial good enough for you?
Yeah, the United States has been accused multiple times of using white phosphorus in Syria, both by the Russian Ministry of Defense and by international human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, who have said that the U.S. use of white phosphorus in both Syria and in Iraq during this extended conflict against ISIS could be a war crime. And previously we've had reports from the Washington Post showing U.S. troops with white phosphorus munitions on the ground in Syria near Raqqa and in Iraq near Mosul. So U.S. denials of their use fly in the face of the evidence we've seen previously in this conflict.
All of this is happening as experts agree the war in Syria is drawing to an end. Leaders from Germany, France, Turkey, and Russia met in Istanbul this week to discuss aspects of the peace process, including potential changes to come to Syria's constitution when the war ends. What do you expect this process to bear, and why isn't the United States involved?
Yeah, With this process we've seen, including the recent Istanbul summit, unfortunately, most of it is probably a talking shop, though it does indicate that the European countries like Germany and France may be taking a degree of remove from themselves from the U.S. position and may be acceptable, primarily out of their own concerns from domestic politics of getting refugees out of their countries and back to Syria. Other than that, the U.S. exclusion from these talks by its own accord is primarily because the U.S. continues to illegally military occupy East Syria and has indicated that it intends to keep a permanent presence there, with the administration giving signals that its mission has shifted from one of fighting ISIS, however uninvited, to one of combating Iranian influence in the country, although Iran's advisors and paramilitaries in the region are there at the express invitation of the legitimate Syrian government.
Which is a fact often overlooked by corporate media and U.S. officials when discussing this issue. Finally, what is preventing the Syrian military from moving to liberate the last remaining extremist strongholds in the country? And after all of this is over, where do you expect all of those extremist fighters to go? I mean, I don't expect, and I'm sure you don't, the Syrian military to kill all of them.
Yeah, right now, the primary thing preventing the Syrian government from liberating the rest of its territory from jihadi and separatist forces is the presence of foreign invasion and occupation on its territory. In the east, that is the United States backing the largely Kurdish SDF, and in the north, this is the Turkish military, which is backing the jihadists in Idlib and has control of the northern stretch along the Jarablus corridor. Russia has signed a memorandum with Turkey forming basically a frozen conflict with a partially operational demilitarized zone around Idlib. But Russia and the Syrian government have both indicated that this step is temporary and that eventually they intend to recover all of this territory. They would prefer to do it with negotiations with Turkey and the jihadis it represents, both those in formal uniform like the National Liberation Front and with the others it supplies like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Al-Qaeda, and the Turkestan Islamic Party.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.